Kia ora tātou, my name is Jackie Hay from Creative New Zealand. I run the Audience Development Program and I'd like to very much welcome you to the first Optimise webinar for 2013. As you all know, we have 6 webinars on the 4th Wednesday of each month from now up until the end of June. So we're really delighted we've had such great attendance. This is by far the largest attendance that we've had, so I'd just really like to thank you all for coming. For those of you who are new, I'll give you some technical tips in a moment, and for those of you who are returning, welcome back and thanks so much for joining us. So for those of you who are new, you'll just want to make sure that during the webinar you're on mute, and if you look in your panel on the right-hand side of your screen,
mute on
with a red cross by it, if you have that, that means that you are mute. If you don't, then it means that you're not mute. So the best thing is during the webinar, unless you have a question that you want to ask, is to put yourself on mute, otherwise we'll get some background interference. If you have questions, what we'll do is Vicki will do the first half of the presentation and then we'll stop for some questions. Then she'll continue on and we'll have questions at the end. But you can also, if you want, send us your questions during the webinar. What you need to do that is to type into the Q&A box, and please make sure that you send it to all participants. If you don't send it to all participants, then it just goes to the lovely Sabrina, who is here to help us out. If you have a technical problem and you're having problems logging in, or you're having problems seeing the screen, then you need to use the chat, and Sabrina will help you with that issue. But in the meantime, I'd really like to welcome Vicki Allpress-Hill, who is here to talk to us about Facebook and engagement on Facebook. And because we have so many people today, I'm not going to do much of an introduction to that. I'm just going to hand right over to Vicki to start the presentation. Thanks so much, Vicki.
Thank you, Jackie, and hi everyone, Happy New Year. It's great to be back doing another series of webinars. We have 6 webinars coming up. This is the first for the year, and it will be a mix of me and some other guest speakers who will be announcing a bit later on. So today's webinar is about Facebook engagement. It's a topic I am asked much about as a consultant in this area. As I browse my newsfeed on Facebook, it's apparent that some arts organisations and artists are getting lots of activity on their Facebook pages in the way of likes, comments and shares, and others are just not getting much at all, as you've probably noticed as well. And as we look into Facebook analytics of those organisations who are taking part of our Optimiser benchmarking program, we can see that some pages may have high numbers of likes, but their individual posts are getting very little attention. So who are these pages that are doing well, and what are they doing differently? Today I'm going to share some of the latest thinking around Facebook engagement. How do you know if your Facebook community is engaged? Some ideas to build into your Facebook engagement strategy, and a few examples of those doing it well. As always with these topics, I feel like I could go on all day. I've had to limit myself, but hopefully you'll each get at least a few tips and ideas to take with you into your Facebook work in 2013. So just some of the pages that I started to notice in January that are doing really well with Facebook engagement. So this is the Take Galleries online. This is an example of when it snowed recently in the UK, tapping into that and inviting people to send in their snow art. Got a heck of a lot of likes and a huge number of shares. This is Steppenwolf Theatre Company getting the cast of their latest play to wear hats for National Hat Day. And this is Alvin Ailey American Dance Theatre asking people what is their favourite Ailey memory. Again, a lot of shares and many, many likes and comments. So as Michael Wu says in an article I read, Quantifying Facebook Engagement, the true value of our Facebook fans cannot be realised until they take actions to interact with us and with others. So today's webinar, I'm going to break into two sections, as Jackie mentioned. And the first is going to be answering some key questions about Facebook engagement, the sort of questions I get quite a lot. And the second section I've divided into 5 key ways to engage arts audiences on Facebook. It's not every single way, but it's some of the main areas to focus on. And as Jackie mentioned, we'll have questions in between and questions and wrap up at the end. So starting with the 5 key questions, what are these questions? So I'm often asked, what do we mean by Facebook engagement? Why would we use Facebook to engage with arts audiences? What sort of engagement can we expect on Facebook? How do we know that our Facebook users are engaged? And has Facebook just made engagement harder with its recent changes? So we're just going to go through some of these for now. So what do we mean by Facebook engagement? As arts organisations and creative practitioners, our focus is developing audiences for our art form, obviously. So what we want to do is to use Facebook to help support us in these goals. So if we look at, this is just one quote I found about, one definition of audience engagement. There are many definitions, but I thought this was quite encompassing. So audience engagement is about being educational, participatory, creating opportunities for audiences to interact, and that's physically, emotionally, spiritually, and intellectually with our art form beyond the role of being an observer. The Facebook engagement is reflected in 3 main forms, which is likes, shares, and comments. And Facebook Insights reports show us how engaged our users are, and I'll come to this in a moment. So although it's important for us to acquire new likes to increase our visibility and reach, it's the behaviour of those who like us that we should be concerned about on a deeper level. So engagement with our audiences on Facebook means that via this channel we are conversing with them, they're getting to know who we are, including the people behind our brand. Their loyalty to our organisation is growing, or to us if we're an individual practitioner. Their understanding of our art form is increasing, and they're feeling that they're part of a community who is interested in and supports us. Engagement on Facebook means our audiences see the real us behind the public face of our organisation, and they feel that they're experiencing unique insights. So why would we use Facebook to engage with audiences? Well, as you've probably found, of all the social media platforms, Facebook has proven itself to be an ideal arts audience engagement tool. So when it comes to those keywords we read earlier in the definition, education, participation, interaction, emotion, being beyond the role of observer, Facebook enables it all. This is primarily because of the functionality of the platform. It enables different types of content, including multimedia, variable post lengths, sharing options, events, visible conversation. So your fans can easily converse with each other and see the whole conversation. Outbound links, advertising, promote post options, messaging, and Facebook Insights, which are great to track it all. So this infographic from social media report cards gives Facebook top scores for sharing and connecting. We've all experienced the power of Facebook in one way or another, but one of the greatest struggles arts organisations, and for that matter businesses, have is to how to get their followers responding, conversing and interacting. So what can we expect? Can we expect sales from Facebook is obviously a question I get asked a lot. Can we expect ticket sales and donations? Yes and no. As we look at the Optimiser participants who have e-commerce websites enabled, we can see that Facebook is up there as one of the top referring sites outside of Google search for ticket sales, and in some instances has got into the 6 figures in the last year in terms of the number of sales. So we are seeing ticket sales, but Facebook is about building relationships, and we can presume that ticket sales direct from Facebook come from audiences or Facebook users already engaged with the organisation. So think about Facebook being about building a community that is more predisposed to buy from you because they feel safe and comfortable with you, and they're being made more aware and getting a deeper understanding. So audience engagement on Facebook can take many forms, but what I found useful is to review your audience engagement and audience development goals and think about how well your Facebook page is supporting these. So here are some typical audience development goals: reaching new potential audiences, conversing with potential audiences and of course existing audiences, encouraging attendance, whether that be first time or repeat attendance, giving existing audiences the tools to share and spread the word, enlightening and educating those who have started to engage with or consume our art form, and creating brand advocates. So Facebook can enable you to do all of these things. So what you're thinking about, rather than just randomly posting content on Facebook, is you're thinking about how can those posts help you to achieve these bigger goals. As you know, I'm all about strategy and getting back to what you're trying to achieve. So how do we know that our Facebook users are engaged? So of course we want to grow likes. That's really important, but the true measure of the impact of our Facebook page is the number of users who are participating and responding. And this we can view via a number of Facebook Insights reports, which is important to understand how to read. So everyone with a Facebook business page has access to these gems of information and insight. So the one that we've all kind of seen is the talking about this rate. So talking about this is the number of unique people who've created a story about your page, and the talking about this rate that pops up on your page and in your insights automatically, or anyone else's page for that matter, is talking about the previous 7 days. And a story is created by anything someone does on Facebook that means that it ends up in the newsfeed. So they like your page, they post to your page wall, they like it, they comment on it or share one of your page posts. They answer a question, they respond to an event, they might answer a poll, all those sorts of things that they do, tag your page. Anything that they do that creates a story in their newsfeed is the number of, so anyone who's done that is included in the talking about this rate. And so what you want to do is look at how many people are talking about this and divide your total number of likes by this and do a percentage. And so we're finding that talking about this rates among Optimiser participants are ranging from 0.15% at the lower end right up to 42%. The interesting thing about talking about this to remember is that it's a moment in time thing. So as you know, everyone has external activity that impacts how engaged people are on their Facebook page. So it's obvious that at certain times you're going to be having a lot of activity on Facebook page, and other times, perhaps it's over the summer, you're not going to have much at all. But it's quite important to try and make sure that that talking about this rate doesn't sort of peak and trough too much, and that you're watching it and trying to keep it up when you don't have a lot of external activity on. Interesting, I've been reading about averages. I've read about them being anything from 2% up to, around about 2 to 3%, and our average amongst the Optimiser participants so far is 4.98%. That's changing every time you look at it, of course, but it's quite interesting that New Zealand arts organisations appear to have quite high engagement on the whole. Some of the other, so you can delve into talking about this a bit more in your Facebook Insights, and I do suggest you do this. So you can go into the talking about this tab and see who exactly is talking about your page amongst your demographics. You may find it's quite different. The people who are liking your page, the demographics of those people may be quite different to those who are actually talking about it and engaged. This can give you great insight. So you may have particular segments of your audience that are really using Facebook. You can either decide to really hone in on those, or you might just decide to develop some other segments. So it's very important not just to look at the number of likes divided by the demographics, but to actually look at the talking about this rate as well. It also enables you to drill down into how people are talking about your page. So you can look at the individual graphs related to likes, stories, mentions and photo tags, and posts by others. So this is something to play around with at your leisure to really start to get to a picture of who's part of your Facebook community. Once you go into the post level reports, you'll see that there's 3 engagement related stats. So the first is engaged users. So that's the number of unique people who have ever clicked on your post. So you can go in and see, it will show you, and you can actually order it in that way. So you can sort it by engaged users. The other one is the virality score. So the percentage of people who've created a story from your page post out of the total number of unique people who've seen it. So it's kind of looking at reach and then looking at actually how many then created a story. So virality is a great kind of quick overview to see which of your posts are performing really well. And then your other one is, sorry, going back, well, you've got a talking about this in the middle, you've got a talking about this rate for the individual posts as well. So having a play around with those and sorting by those scores can actually give you a sense of, this is just brilliant for finding out which content works. So rather than just randomly posting what you think might be interesting, get into these insights and see what's worked and do more of the same. It just makes sense. Another interesting stat is if you go into your traffic sources report in Google Analytics and see where, look for the referring sites report and see where Facebook pops up. And then not only do you see the number of visits that come from Facebook, but you can start to see how engaged they are against other visitors from different sources. So you can start to see if the bounce rate where they stay on one page and then leave is quite high. Maybe you're not delivering to people what they expect once they come from Facebook. You can sort of get a sense as well of how many new visits are coming from Facebook as opposed to existing users. So these can give you some insights too. And if you've got yourself set up goals in e-commerce as well, you can start to see how Facebook is converting into those important business outcomes. So I just wanted to, before we finish the first section, just broach the subject about Facebook EdgeRank and recent changes which have impacted our ability to reach our Facebook followers, because I know some of you will have this on your mind. Just to explain, Facebook has an algorithm that they developed which governs what is displayed and how high on the newsfeed. So do you ever wonder why and how certain content ends up in your newsfeed? This is why, because in the background Facebook has this algorithm. I'm not going to pretend to be a mathematical genius and understand Facebook's algorithm in great detail, but suffice to say it makes decisions on what content goes in your feed based on 3 factors: affinity, weight, and time decay. Affinity is the relationship between a user and what's called an edge. An edge is basically everything that happens in Facebook. So status updates, comments, likes, and shares are called edges. So any action that happens within Facebook. So affinity is the relationship between a user and an edge. So if a user is frequently commenting, liking, sharing, or clicking on a particular brand's posts, they're going to get a sort of stronger affinity. Weight is a value system created by Facebook to increase or decrease the value of certain actions within Facebook. So commenting is given more weight than a like and has a higher value than a like. And time decay is around how long the edge or the action has been alive. The older it is, the less valuable it is. So, so basically your brand is ultimately judged by your ability to engage your content. So if your users are more engaged, your posts and activities are going to be more likely to turn up in their news feeds. So it's quite complex. So, you know, if you go quiet on Facebook for a month or 2 or a week or a couple of weeks, the danger is that you start to decrease your EdgeRank score. There's this site which is in the resources in here, whatisEdgeRank.com. It's a great site for explaining this if you really want to delve into it more. On September the 20th last year, Facebook rolled out a significant change to the EdgeRank algorithm. At first it was all rumours, and then they came clear and they told people when it had come out. And this change has directly impacted the reach of brand pages on Facebook. Now, some organisations have done some research on this, and we're actually also looking in the Optimiser participants to see if there's been a change between that date, the 20th September, and after it in terms of reach. And just at first glance on this one page, you can see that the reach on the left-hand column for a post was higher before the 20th of September and started to get slightly lower afterwards, and this is a trend that we're seeing. A whole lot of stuff went around the web, obviously, of people saying Facebook did this to make people pay more for promoter posts, which was the new thing that they brought out. Facebook say otherwise. Facebook say that feed quality is crucial in order not to turn off users, and that people are now seeing content they will most likely engage with. So in other words, that the posts that are being seen are getting engagement. What Facebook is saying is that they've altered the EdgeRank algorithm in order to make quality content delivered to those who want it. Now, whatever the case, it's not going to help us to sit around and whinge about Facebook doing this just to get more money from advertising. Interestingly, some of the studies have shown that even though reach is decreasing, engagement has not really changed. So then that's something that will come out a little bit more in the Optimiser statistics as we get this data out. It's quite a lot to delve into. But the key is to think about how does this change what we do, and does it change what we do? So these are some recommendations from a blog I thought, which were sort of repeated by quite a few other experts in the field. So first is focusing on content that's been successful with your fans in the past. So using those post insights that I showed you to really see what's working with your fans and really focus in on that. Because hopefully you're going to still reach the vast majority of your fans if you're doing that. So analyse your content to see which posts are receiving that engagement and reach. Don't overpost, that's a sort of best practice thing anyway. There's a new thing. If you go into Facebook after this webinar and go to a page that you've liked and click on the like button. Now this has been rolling out, I can see it, hopefully you can all too. There's a get notifications button. So you can choose to get notifications from a particular Facebook page. So what is being suggested here is that you actively encourage your fans to go into that like button, click on the like button, look at the drop-down menu and select the get notifications button if they want to hear more from you. So there is a way that you can actually proactively ask your fans to hear more from you. And then, you know, none of us really want to do this, but it's quite good value to pay for promoted posts when you have something that really requires more reach. And you can play around with that at quite low dollar values and just sort of see how that impacts the reach of a particular post. Sometimes it's $5, $10 can make quite a difference. I did read some other advice from another blogger from a website optimization consulting firm who asserts that Facebook did not artificially restrict page reach in order to sell advertising. The EdgeRank algorithm changed so that the less popular posts were less visible and posts with high interaction were more visible. What I liked her saying is, as a business page manager, your job has always been to create and share content that users will want to see, interact with and share. Facebook is less about selling and more about visibility. So just to recap briefly the first half, so we've just talked about what we mean by Facebook engagement and why Facebook is such a great tool for engaging with arts audiences, what sort of engagement we can expect on Facebook and how we know that our Facebook users are engaged, and just a little bit about the EdgeRank algorithm and how that impacts us. We can pause briefly now for questions if anyone has any, or we can carry on because we also have a question time at the end. Are there any questions at this point? I'll let Jackie or Sabrina lead that. Okay, I think we have a question, Sabrina, will you? Now, I have to say that if I can't answer your question, I have a team of people who can, so I can come back to you if I can't answer it immediately.
So we've got a question from Aaron, who's experienced problems with the promoted post functionality, with it attracting a large number of spammy looking likes. That's a great word, spammy looking. I'm wondering if others have experienced similar.
That's interesting, Aaron. Okay. Has anyone else experienced this? So what you're saying, Aaron, is that when you've promoted a post, you've got a whole lot of new likes, but they're likes that are of people who are not who you would really want to have as part of your community, is that right? Or are not really relevant to?
No, well, they're suspicious looking, Vicki. There have been likes less to the page, but to the actual post. Like I arrived one morning after having promoted a post to see that the post had received, you know, several hundred likes, all out of Indonesia, or something like that.
That's weird. And did you do the promoter post to friends only, or to friends of friends, or how widely did you? Which option did you? Do you remember?
Off the top of my head, I think fairly widely, not to friends only.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. It was sort of late last year. I wonder if it was somebody was, you know, organising some big campaign against Facebook's changes and paying people in third world countries to chase promoted posts and spam them to put people off, because it certainly put me off, that functionality.
That's interesting.
You know, because I mean, I know there are offers about that some people have taken up to, you know, buy fake likes, which just seem silly to me, but yeah, it sort of looks like you're doing that as well. If anyone looks more than twice, yeah, it was very strange. And I clicked through some of these profiles that were liking the post, and they looked like genuine profiles, but they were far removed from us, and most of their profiles were in another language. So it's very strange. I was just wondering. I did Google it, and it did seem like it was something that had been experienced elsewhere, so not just us. But
yeah, okay, yeah. That's, thanks for mentioning that, Aaron. I think we should have a look out for that. I think what you've indicated is that it's quite important once you've promoted a post to go in and delve into the analytics a bit and just see what's happened as a result. And that's something, certainly an issue that I'll take on board and have a look into.
So I have an experience of that. This is Jackie here. Not exactly with that happening, and I don't think this is the case in what you're talking about, Aaron, but I've actually run a Facebook page where I think some countries just are much more prolific on Facebook and will kind of like everything. So actually Vicki and I ran a Facebook page together where we had huge amount of interaction from people in Argentina. And it just seems that once they liked the page, they would pretty much sort of like every single post, and then friends of friends who didn't really seem to be interested in the topic of the page would also like it. So there are some countries where once you kind of get into people's feeds, you'll get a kind of massive uptake, and it doesn't sound like that's the case for this particular post, but we had really high engagement, bizarrely, from Argentina on our page. So sometimes it's just about the culture and how people kind of interact with Facebook.
Yeah, so, yeah. I can see another question from Anna Cannon. When people click on the like button, do you automatically get the get notifications? No, actually. You have to go back into the page, actually click your mouse on the button that says liked, because you already liked it, and then it comes up, the drop-down list. It's just something they've recently rolled out, so I'm just sort of exploring that. But I'm exploring what happens when you click get notifications on your pages and how that changes what you see in your news feed. But no, you actually have to manually do it, from what I understand. It doesn't sort of pop up as an option once you've liked the page. Hope that answers that question. Any other questions that I can't see, Sabrina?
So there's a question from Dawn.
And, hang on, I need to answer Q&A, sorry. See, increase your liked page worthwhile. You know, I can't really answer this, Dawn. I don't know too much about the increase your liked page, but what I can do is I'll get your email address off Sabrina, and I'll look into that and try and give you an intelligent answer after this webinar. I'm suspicious of these things. I've seen quite a few of these things going on. So I will come back to you on that, Dawn.
Okay, we're just having a little bit of problem because people are asking their questions in chat rather than Q&A. So we have another question. I see from Christine O'Brien, I see different items in my news feed when I look at Facebook on my mobile than when I look at the feed on my desktop. Just wondering if anyone else has noticed this. We certainly have. Do you have any thoughts about that, Vicki?
No, just that that's definitely something that I've noticed too, and it's all something to do with the algorithm, and I'm not sure exactly why that happens. So that's another thing that I'm looking into at the moment, is how you can kind of understand why the feeds are different on your different devices.
Yes. So also a really fantastic, we'll just take this as the last question and we can have more questions at the end. A great question from Charlie McDermott. How do you ask fans to click get notifications without sounding desperate or cringy?
Well, I think, you know, it's interesting because I was thinking about that when I saw the suggestion, and I thought, well, you know, Facebook's all about being real and genuine. So I think you could do it in an informative way, Charlie. So you could say to people, hey, we've just learned that Facebook has rolled out this new option. If you would like to make sure that you receive our notifications in your news feed, here's what to do. And you could do a little screenshot of the button and clicking on the button, perhaps. So I think if you're just quite upfront and, yeah, just sort of saying, hey, this is actually a new piece of functionality that you might not be aware of, and it might help you to get our notifications and be sure that you don't miss out on anything. I think that's completely fine.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, shall we move on for now, and there's opportunity for more questions at the end?
Yes, that's right. And actually, just before we do, Celia's asked a great question. She wants to know if we can get a copy of the webinar text afterwards. And for those people who have never taken part in the webinar before, what happens is we record this as a video and audio file, and we put that up on the Creative New Zealand website. So it will be up there in the next day or two, and so you can then share it with your colleagues and anybody who wants to watch it, or you can re-watch it yourself. But yes, it'll be up in the next 24 hours.
And there's also an accompanying PDF file that you can download as well that goes with it.
Fantastic.
Okay, so we're just going to move on to, there are a whole lot of individual ways to engage arts audiences on Facebook. None of these are rocket science. You'll be doing a lot of the ones I mentioned, but I think the key is about how you do these together in synergy to make sure that you've got a really great engagement strategy going on that's working towards your audience objectives. I've grouped these into kind of 5 key areas because there's so many tips and tricks, and pulled out a few examples of where I can see this happening quite successfully. So the 5 ways are, firstly, to create an environment that's rife for conversation. The second is to develop in yourself some really good Facebook posting habits. So we're at the beginning of 2013 when we're trying to improve our habits and ways of doing things. This is a good time to sort of think about some really good sort of systems and best practice ways of posting. And that can make a real difference in terms of improving your the engagement levels and response rates. As you've probably all noticed, you post an image, it gets way more engagement than anything else. That's not just a fluke, it is there is scientific proof to prove this and data to prove this. So using images to tell your story can be really, really effective. Using Facebook to really provide that behind the scenes inside view works. That's why people like to be part of a Facebook community. They like to feel they're getting the inside view. And also the 5th area is around being outward focused. So not just talking about yourself on Facebook all the time, but actually supporting the wider community, and that will have huge benefits for you as well. I'm just going to take you through each of these areas. So the first is around creating a conversational environment. So this is around making people feel really, really comfortable about talking to you and asking them things that will actually make them respond. So just reading through this quote from a great article, 15 Different Ways to Increase Facebook Engagement on Your Company Page in 2013. Talk to your readers and keep them coming back. So reply to their questions in a timely manner, like their comments, and start engaging discussions. Ask your fans for feedback related to your business. You'll be surprised with the great advice that you'll get. So there are a number of ways to do this. So the first thing that's really, really important is to be responsive to comments and encourage those who do respond. So I've got an example here which is not a good example, and I don't like really generally pulling up people and criticising them. But I normally love these guys at Art House Co-op who do the Sketchbook project. They're in Brooklyn, New York. And I just noticed on their page recently that a couple of times someone had asked a question. One was a question and the other one was kind of a little bit of a gripe, and there'd been no response from them. And I think nothing kind of looks worse than when you don't respond and just leave the person hanging and they feel foolish for having responded to you. So timely responses are very, very important. Placing questions at the ends of posts. Amazing stats that you hear. You're likely to get 92% more comments than non-questions according to vertical response. And not just placing them at the end of posts, but making posts a question. So I've seen some really effective uses of this, and I've seen some not so effective uses. What I've seen is when you ask someone to maybe talk about, you know, the opera they love the most, or it might even be a bit more complex, like you know, I can't think of an example, but a fairly complex question that requires them to stop and think and reveals how clever or not they are on the subject matter, you're going to get very little response. that if you ask a question that people can answer straight away and comes from their heart and is based on their own experience, you're going to get a lot more response. So one of the most effective things I ever saw was Tate galleries asking in 3 words, what are you doing this weekend? Huge number of responses and really creative responses, and it was a lot of fun for the community to read through and see what others were doing and how they'd responded. That was successful, I think, for 3 reasons. One was that it inspired creativity, that thing of trying to create something within 3 words. The other was it was very fast to answer. So if someone's just jumping across to Facebook during their working day, they didn't have to go away and think about it, they could just answer it right there and then. And 3 is there was no wrong answer. So, you know, anyone could answer that question and feel sort of proud to share a bit about themselves. Post about topics that people care passionately about. So apparently local posts get higher engagement, something that's about someone's local area. Topical posts, so you saw that early example of Tate inviting people to share their snow art. Well, people love things about snow. I mean, Jackie and I remember from the Real New Zealand Festival putting a picture of Steph from Christchurch Festival shoveling snow outside the venue and getting a huge number of likes because people are right there in the moment experiencing that weather extreme. And any human stories. Fill in the blanks posts are great. So to me, dance is all about ... One of my Facebook friends who may be a friend of some of yours recently asked us to complete the sentence, jet lag is ... And it was really hilarious, and she got a huge number of responses. That was her personal page, but you can take that and do that on a business page. And ask for stories, ask for people's stories and ask for them in different ways. And you can even crowdsource feedback, so invite opinions on a particular thing that you're doing. Perhaps you've got 2 potential brochure designs. Why not ask your Facebook fans to vote on the one they like the best? Or if you've got some potential names for things or any ideas that you've got, engage your Facebook following in helping you to make decisions. So this is the Tate Gallery, who are very good. I recommend following them to have a look. They ask questions a lot. How does Jackson Pollock's painting make you feel? And they've combined that also with a photo, which is another sort of power way of getting response. We talked about that one. Yeah, so there's a number of ways you can ask questions. Alvin Ailey, American Dance Theatre, are great at asking questions as well, so they're a good one to watch. So developing good posting habits. To reap Facebook's business building benefits, the key is to develop daily habits. So I read this kind of interesting case study. I'm just looking through my notes here, which was, now I'm not going to be able to find it, forgive me for a moment. Virgin Mobile undertook a study in 2011 to better understand the type of content that appealed to its fans and to maximise engagement. So this is really interesting, this study, and I've put it in the references, the resources at the end for you to have a look at. You can download it as a PDF. They analysed live posts between October and November 2011 and compared posts using best practice to those that didn't. So the best practices they used were the posts were kept under 100 characters. They included a call to action, and they were sent out each morning at a particular time that they knew worked for their users. The best practices significantly increased post engagement, which I found really interesting. So their feedback score, which they created as sort of a score system, it was 91% higher for best practice posts, and their like rate was 2 times higher, and comment rate was 64% higher. So there's a number of best practices you can employ that are going to help you. The first is keeping posts succinct. Facebook did a recent study, and the optimal message length was posts between 100 and 250 characters. That's less than 3 lines of text. They got about 60% more likes, comments and shares than posts greater than 250 characters. So just because Facebook have allowed us to write longer posts, don't sort of think that you should have posts that are several paragraphs long, especially not all the time. So keep your posts short, and that can get a lot more response. Creating an editorial calendar is a really good idea. Just looking through, I think I've showed this one before, which is a Facebook example, which is a way of mapping out on each day of the week what sort of post are you going to put up. And you can also go through, you can do it say for a month or two ahead, and you can include in your calendar, which might just be in an Excel spreadsheet or a table or however you want to keep it, all the activity in your organisation that you might want to talk about on Facebook, and also external activity in the sector or amongst your sponsors or anyone in your sort of circle who you might also want to talk about. And then map out your Facebook posts related to that and also relating back to your goals. So having a calendar is a really good thing to try for 2013. Using the right words for higher engagement, so apparently more direct language and action words work well. Posting at the right times and the right frequency. So this is something we're also delving into in Optimiser. It's taking a lot of work to kind of really get a sense of this, but it's very dependent on your individual organisation and your audience. But it is important to find when you get the most engagement from your posts. So you need to test around a bit and do a bit of split testing and try things at different times of the day. I know that organisations I've spoken to recently are finding kind of 1 to 3 p.m. to be that sort of coming back from lunchtime, mid-afternoon when people are a bit sort of tired and they're getting distracted is quite good, and also in the evening. But it's going to depend completely on your organisation. And same with the frequency. Probably 4 to 5 times a week is what you want to aim for. You don't want to be too infrequent because there's that whole EdgeRank thing and you want visibility, but at the same time you don't want to be too frequent. If you're a festival or leading up to an event, obviously you could be posting several times a day, and organically that works because people are expecting to hear a lot from you. So you just have to judge it based on your audience and use your Facebook insights to check it out. Keep your posts varied, so nothing looks better than a Facebook page that's got a whole lot of different types of posts on it. It almost looks like a magazine when you scroll down. That just keeps things interesting for your followers. And always monitor Facebook insights. So maybe at the end of the week, just pop in and look at your posts for the previous week, sort them by virality score, and see which ones have worked particularly well for you, and think about what you can do in terms of more of the same.
Vicki, sorry to interrupt. Just before you carry on, that's fantastic because you've just answered a question that Marianne Hargraves had asked about a time of day that seems to get more views. But I also wondered, you've mentioned Optimiser a few times, and there'll be a few people who are listening who don't know what Optimiser is. So would you mind just describing it in a couple of paragraphs so that people know what you're talking about?
Not at all. In fact, I'll try and do it in 100 characters, shall I? Optimiser is an online marketing benchmarking study that I've initiated in partnership with Creative New Zealand and working with Tim Roberts from Sydney, who some of you may know, who's an expert researcher in the arts. And 40 organisations, or I think it's around 39, have become part of the first year of Optimiser and enabled us access to all their online analytics. And what we're doing is trying to find patterns and trends and things that are popping out at us via these analytics and create benchmarks that will be released in a report middle of this year that people in the sector can compare themselves against, because there had been no benchmarking of online marketing in the art sector in New Zealand previously. More information is available on the Creative New Zealand website, and there's also an Optimiser blog on WordPress, which is in the resources that you can go and have a look at, which as we're sort of discovering things, we're updating with posts and anything interesting we read about. So a lot of these things that we're investigating, we'll start to feed that through on the blog in the next month or so. Okay. So just moving right along. So yeah, this is actually in the Optimiser blog. I suggest you go in and have a look at it. As I said, the link is in your resources. And it was a post put up recently, which is talking about, it was an infographic that came out about the best days to post. Obviously, it sort of was American, this infographic, I think. But it tells you, it divides it down. There was an entertainment segment, and there was also a not-for-profit. So go and have a look at that and see if that sort of makes sense for you. It's interesting how sort of pages were receiving higher interaction on the weekends. So maybe we need to be posting a little bit more at weekends. That's something you can test out yourself. Here's a great example. Again, I could pull them out a lot because they're really good at this, but here's them being very succinct in a post and then attaching it to a photo, which, as I said, also increases engagement. So yeah, coming to that subject, images are really, really important. So basically, all sorts of studies have found that images receive much higher engagement. This is a really interesting infographic, which again I've included a link to in the resources, about the impact of photos on Facebook. So they're attracting more comments than the average post, 53% more likes than the average post. Posts with photo albums receive 180% more engagement than the average post. All these statistics that just prove what we knew anyway. So I just want to say, don't be afraid to post as many things as possible with photos, and think about ways you can use images on posts with other things. So if you've got a little observation or you're announcing something, if you're linking to something, rather than just using the little thumbnail and quite a bit of text, instead create an image to go with it. And some people are, when they're posting blog posts and linking to blog posts on, things on other channels, they're using images to go with those and having success with that. Invite people's involvement and creativity with caption this photo posts. Just be very careful about not doing competitions. Facebook's promotion rules say that you cannot use Facebook functionality as a means to enter a competition, or you could have your page pulled down. So for example, you can't say, like this post, everyone who likes this post goes on the draw to win, or the best caption will win something. But what you can do is just invite people to caption this photo. There's an example here of National Geographic inviting people to caption this image of an elephant seal and getting huge numbers of response, which is great for their brand and what they're all about. Just going backwards. Invite your audience to share their photos. So there's a number of different ways you can do that, but just remember to do that. It might be, inviting people to photograph themselves next to their favourite piece of public art, for example. You can think of all sorts of things related to themes that you're promoting. And do have photo competitions, but if you do, use an appropriate platform or an app. You can spend a little bit of money creating an app if you want to be serious about a photo competition. I can't go into detail at this at the moment because we won't have enough time, but for those of you using Instagram or Pinterest, they are great sort of ways you can integrate them with Facebook, and they're great sort of feeders of photo content into your page. And sorry for the small typo here, but tag audience members in photos or invite them to tag themselves. So if you're doing a particular big event and you're photographing people, you can ask them, do you mind if we tag you on Facebook? Or just make people aware that you're going to be putting the photos up on Facebook, and they're invited to tag themselves if they like. Nothing worse than being tagged in something where you look awful, so just be careful with that. Alvin Ailey Dancet are very good at using stunning images and matching them with questions. Here's an example, Sydney Opera House, just putting up a photo album of a recent event, and then having 66 shares and then 628 likes, a number of comments. Tempo Dance Festival, yeah, they put up photos of their launch event. I was tagged in that, and I was quite happy to be because they were quite good photos, but that was a great way of getting people to comment and share around different photos as they saw people they recognised. We talked about National Geographic. And HubSpot, which is, it's a social media kind of business, they're doing some clever things on social media, but they will use photos next to any links to their blog to get more attention rather than just doing a text and a link. You can, use a sort of online thing. For those of you who follow my own personal Facebook page, I have a cat called Phoebe, recently got her a little pet tag, and I noticed that they invited you to enter Pet of the Week, and actually this is illegal because it's using Facebook functionality to enter the competition. So what they could have just done is invite you to share a picture of your pet, and then people on the page are, there's nothing like pets to get people's emotions going, right, and getting engagement and things. So people are sharing pictures of their pet with their tag on. So there's a number of ways that you could think of analogies in the arts for this sort of thing. This was just a bit of fun. This was an art gallery, contemporary art gallery in Finland, who got sick of people saying, making snide comments about the contemporary art and saying I could do better myself. So they did a campaign called Make a Better One Yourself then, and invited people to upload their artwork that they thought was better than what they'd seen in the gallery to Facebook, and then promoted it around through different media, the campaign. So stuff like that can be quite fun. We all want people to come inside and behind the scenes, and that's what Facebook is all about. So it's a perfect place to do this. So what you want to do, ways to let people in, acknowledge the people behind your brand. So I was working with a New Zealand dance company, and we, because they were new and launching themselves and people didn't necessarily know who was involved, at every opportunity we posted a photo of one of the team members and talked about either an achievement or some sort of insight about them. And those things got quite a lot of likes and shares. People do want to know who are the individuals behind your brand. They don't just want to know about your brand, believe it or not, because it's about human stories. Show audiences the day-to-day life in your organisation. So this great photo, oh no, sorry, I'll go back. This great photo here that the Australian Ballet posted this month of unpacking point shoes. It got a huge amount of shares, 82 shares, because it's such an interesting and intriguing photo. And then let them share in the creative process, so give them some insights into what's going on behind the scenes. Invite guest posts from those who work with you or are close to you. It's a great way to create content as well. Share your observations and opinions, and make people smile. Use humour and don't take yourself too seriously. If you can, offer some exclusive content that people get on Facebook that they don't get elsewhere. And if you can as well, show audiences actually enjoying what you offer, using images again. So this was San Francisco Ballet did an exclusive Nutcracker ticket sale just to their Facebook fans. And this is just Opera Australia giving an insight into rehearsals and getting quite a lot of likes on that. And the last thing I would say is not to be too internally focused. So you're part of the community. And if you're talking, Facebook's all about community. So if you're talking about yourself all the time, praising yourself, talking about your achievements, announcing things about yourself, you're not really maximising Facebook's potential to be part of a community. So as much as possible, talk about others in the sector or in your wider community who you would have a relationship with in the real world. And so this is a quote from me. I made this up yesterday. But I really believe this, that anyone good at relationships in real life will be good at them on Facebook. So, when you're on Facebook, think about real life and how you would interact with others. And it's that whole thing about, only having a cup of coffee with someone when you want something from them. They pretty much start to guess that sort of thing. It's like, going to people and asking them to like your page. Actually, it's better to have a cup of coffee with them when you don't need them, and that you're showing that you genuinely like them, and you can do that sort of thing on Facebook. So as much as possible, be real and genuine and not promotional, and be active on other relevant Facebook pages in a sensitive way. So in a way that is supporting them and not just promoting yourself. So don't go diving onto other Facebook pages saying, hey, I thought we'd tell you about our latest play. Go in and actually comment on something that they've said, and sort of say, oh, that's fantastic, good on you, that sort of thing. Another thing you can do, which is really helpful when you have kind of gaps in activity, is to share content of other organisations who you feel are aligned with you. I tell you what, when you need them later, they're going to remember that you shared content about them. And so I thought, Chamber Music New Zealand do a fantastic job of this, mentioning other organisations, creates interesting content for their followers, but also it's supporting the other organisations and gaining them brownie points, I bet, with the other organisations who are more likely to support them in future. So yeah, talk about others. Relate posts to your audience's lifestyle, so sort of know your audience and what they love and they're interested in, and just think about them when you're posting. Make sure you share your audience's views and experiences. It is interesting to hear that local stories are more likely to be shared, so geo-target when you can. If you're a national organisation and you've got something that's related to Wellington only, well, geo-target the post, which you can do within the post, and make sure only Wellington people see it. And then a great suggestion, ask your audience what content they would like you to provide via Facebook. Why not? You could do that as a poll. So, it's a New Zealand festival at the moment, so I wish them all the best with this. They're doing a great thing where people can share their stories, and then they're posting these stories on Facebook about their favourite memory of the festival, I think it is. So it's interesting to watch that at the moment. So just a quick recap, the 5 areas that can help are creating a conversational environment, developing good practice posting habits, using images, letting people in, being outward focused. There are so many other ways as well to go on a sort of deeper level, which is using promotions and apps to do that, using the different Facebook advertising methods to increase your engagement. A huge number of other ideas that I just can't squeeze into an hour, but I wanted to share the ideas that are possible for everyone. So just before, I have a few resources here that I thought would be interesting to you, and also if you go through the quotes, they come from articles that I found really helpful. I just wanted to finish very quickly on a sort of 1-minute story. I wanted to tell you about Monica. I was at a workshop in Northland recently, and Monica, who is an artist in Kirikiri, stood up at the end of the session and told us about her Facebook page, which has over 1,000 likes. And she's an independent artist who also runs her own art gallery, and she teaches workshops. She's had huge success on Facebook, and she's completely passionate about it. And so I do recommend you go and follow her page. The clever thing she's doing is she's being very frequent with her posts, but not over frequent. She has a great natural tone of voice. Her personality, which is quirky and humorous, comes through. Her whole goal of using Facebook, which is to genuinely share her passion for art and to promote other artists, comes through really genuinely. She gets very excited. She never moans or gripes on Facebook. And she does clever things, like she's started to get an American following. So what she's doing is making sure she comments on one of her posts just before she goes to bed at night, which brings it back up into the news feeds of the followers. And so she gets a whole lot of comments and new likes overnight from the American followers. So she's thinking a lot about the scheduling and timing. So for someone who's working on their own up in Northland to get such a strong Facebook following in a relatively short time, it's really great. And I thought if any of you are individual practitioners, artists in your own right, that Monica could give you some inspiration. So I recommend you go and follow her page. There it is there. Okay, so wow, a lot to squeeze in. As always, we're always sort of running a bit short on time, but do we have time for a couple of questions, Jackie?
We do. So the first question is from Marianne Hargraves. It's a great question. What are the copyright issues with posting images that you take from another website? This may not be able to be answered quickly.
Yeah, I never like to call myself a copyright expert, because I'm not. From other websites, yeah, you mean sort of sharing something you found on another site?
Well, I imagine what she's thinking is if you're promoting somebody else's work, or you're wanting to use an image, which is a great thing to do if you're taking it from another website or another Facebook page, in fact.
Well, if it's on another Facebook page, I think anyone posting to Facebook knows that that's fair game. There's a share button. So what I was talking about really was sharing straight from Facebook. So if someone else posts something, otherwise I would be linking to the page. I wouldn't be taking the image off the website without their permission. I would be either asking first, hey, I'd like to post this on Facebook. Would you mind if I use this image? And invariably the answer is yes. Or I would be linking to the page and sort of acknowledging, you know, the source of the image. I just think it's better to play safe.
Great.
Any other comments on that, Jackie?
No, I think that's probably a really good approach. So Sally Woodfield has also a great question. Can you briefly remind us about the guidelines around competitions and giveaways on Facebook?
Yeah, so you probably just want to do a Google search on Facebook promotion guidelines, but the way it works is that Facebook will not allow a promotion to be run on your page that uses the actual Facebook functions as the entry mechanism. So typical examples that you see a lot, there was that cat one I showed you where it said upload, enter our competition, upload your photo of your pet, and the best pet, you know, wins the competition. So the entry mechanism is to upload your photo on Facebook. Another one you see a lot is like our page in January and you go into the draw to win, or like this post and go into the draw to win. Again, the liking is part of Facebook's functionality and is the entry mechanism. If you want to run a promotion on Facebook, the only way you can do it is either use an application. So if you've got a bit of marketing budget, you can get an app created by an agency, or you can use a service like Wildfire where you can develop your own sort of free competition apps at a sort of more basic level, or run it on another platform. So Jackie and I run a song contest on YouTube and then just promoted the hell out of it on Facebook, but because it wasn't being, you know, the entries were happening on YouTube, it was fine. You're allowed to talk about your competition on Facebook, but you have to run it on another platform. I think I saw Auckland Festival recently talking about things they were doing on Twitter. So if you want to run a competition on Twitter, you can drive people to it from Facebook, but the competition entry is via Twitter, that's fine. Or on your own website, there might be an entry form on your website. So hopefully that makes sense. And you can go into Facebook's promotion guidelines. It's a very good idea to read them because some pages have got in trouble and been pulled down or had their activity sort of ceased for a certain level of time. I know someone who's that's happened to recently. So.
Great. Maybe just time for one more question, and thanks to Kirsten McFarlane for posting that really great link about copyright from Te Papa.
Thank you, Kirsten. Thank you.
Brilliant. So Hannah Leahy wants to know, can you tell us a bit more about the best way to invite audiences to share their own photos on Facebook?
There's a lot of ways, really. I think, yeah, I mean, you can do it from a simple way of actually getting them to email your photo, or you know, you do it through another platform and then you load it onto Facebook, or you can get them to just upload their photos to your page if you've enabled people to upload to your page. One thing I found, there's a number of ways to do it, and there's a number of ways to focus and how you get them to what content matter you're getting them to photograph. But one thing that worked really well for me at a conference that I did social media for last year was, because everyone had Instagram on their mobile phones, was getting people to share their conference experiences. And so to take them on Instagram and put a hashtag in so I could see them all on Instagram, and then I could download them off Instagram and put them in the way that I wanted on the Facebook page and on the website. So yeah, there's a number of ways to do it. But just, you know, Google search using photos for engagement on Facebook and you'll find a heap of ideas online.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Vicki. Look, I'm really sorry, everybody, but we're going to have to stop there because we've already gone over time. Melanie and Paul, you have some unanswered questions, and we have those questions, so Vicki will be able to respond to you after the webinar personally. And I'd just like to thank you all so much for coming along. This is by far the greatest attendance that we've had at any Optimise webinar, so we're really excited about that and absolutely delighted that you could come along and take an hour out of your busy weeks. And I'd also like to thank Vicki for a really fantastic, insightful and really detailed and thorough look at how to engage on Facebook. As I said, this will be up on the website probably by tomorrow, along with a PDF, so you can share that with any of your colleagues. And don't forget to register for the next webinar, which is creating digital content on a shoestring. So anyone that's been interested in the Facebook engagement topic will be very interested in that. It's something that we should all be doing, and it's actually not necessarily as hard as it might seem. So it'd be great if you came along to that. And there'll be a small feedback survey for you to fill in, a very short one at the end of the webinar. But thanks so much for attending, and we look forward to having you join us next time. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.